Hey, it's Wolfy-Chan, and wait. Subscribe. You should definitely subscribe. A lot of you aren't subscribed that watch my stuff. You should definitely subscribe. I am back with another manga review, and this one is Oyasumi Punpun or Goodnight Punpun. This is a very, very long read. It took me like 2 to 3 days. I think 3 days. And it had a lot in it. And I did not feel the way everybody else felt at the end. Let's get that right down on that one. It did not feel the same way when I read it. Yeah. Alright, the story is about our main character Punpun growing up and dealing with things too much for a kid to handle, and an adult to handle, and a person to handle, and handling it to the best of his ability. Oh my god, man. Oh, I'm proud of where Punpun ended at the end. So this is very going to be spoiler heavy. If you wanted to read it, definitely should. Wouldn't recommend it, but it's up to you. Alright, so Punpun starts out as just like an elementary school student when a new student comes in, Aiko, and he instantly kind of falls in love with her and wants to be around her. She's a little not stable and tends to hang out around him, believes him, and ends up telling him that she'll kill him if he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, which is terrifying to a child. But okay, you're in love. Proud of you, I guess. You wanted to love this one. When all of a sudden, something happens at home. His parents were always kind of yelling back and forth at each other, or fighting each other, or just not getting along. When all of a sudden, Punpun comes home and mom's on the ground, dad's trying to explain, dad goes to jail. And let me start out with, the drawings are amazing, and Punpun is like a duck looking thing, and that's how his parents are portrayed. Anybody that's part of Punpun's life, they're like drawn in a certain way that makes them different from everyone else, and I think they're different. Punpun changes from just this character to a taller one, to a human body but just a weird head, to just being a weird triangle, to being what looks like a black demon face thing in a human body. And then he reverts back to being Punpun, that person out there. So it's very much how he sees himself, and I'm guessing he doesn't see himself as being normal from anyone else. Also, his name's not Punpun, it's something like Punansi or something. But everyone just calls him Punpun because it's easier to say, and that's like a nickname that he lives on forever. Ever. So after this scenario, he ends up staying home for a couple times. His uncle comes over and is helping his mom, his mom's not great. Wow. Punpun, you and I have some little connections, and it is weird parents. My mom is not fully on your mom's level, but dear everything. Cheese. All the cheese in the world. All the uncles helping out because the mom's in the hospital after the accident. And of course, Punpun has this little saying so that he can kind of see Afro God, or his own version of like God, that he talks to hope to get wishes and grant wishes. And all this stuff. And, does it work? I mean, he sees something. I don't know if that just means he's mentally gone or something. I don't know, but stuff and things. So, as it goes on, Punpun and the uncle end up meeting Aiko's mom, who was selling dirty water. It was part of, I'm guessing, a cult thing. And Punpun sees her, she runs off, he follows her, they don't exchange anything about water. And she kind of gives off that, like, she doesn't really want to be around, she doesn't want to be with her mom, all this stuff. They end up disappearing, and then Punpun goes on to the next chapter of his life, which is middle school. Middle school or high school, I think. It's either or. I don't know if it was fully elementary school that we begin with. I think it might have been middle school. Once again, schooling very different across the pond. Very different. So we get up to the next one, which I think is high school, because Punpun is kind of being edgy, it's adorable. And his uncle ends up meeting somebody else. And she wants to be with him, all that stuff, pushes into it. And he ends up telling her about the story of how this girl, 16-year-old girl, almost manipulated him into killing her mother. She ends up doing it with somebody else, and he's scarred for life for that. And we don't forget also about his middle school friends, middle school or elementary school friends, because they're all ever-evolving characters. The one with glasses tends to kind of disappear into the background. We follow two, one who believes in, like, spacecrafts and believes his mom is still around, which we find out later she's dead. She doesn't exist. He's just mentally seeing something else. And somebody is protecting him, which was another schoolmate. And weirdly enough, that kid going through all of this stuff, I feel like that kid comes out on top. That kid is champ. The kid who starts seeing things and ends up getting more involved with the cult that Aiko's mother was a part of? Yeah, no, that's not okay. They start using him to be a prophet, and by the end of the manga, I think he still ends up living. The cult ends up, it starts spiking up, and then it, like, crashes down. So we get a nice part in, like, I believe it's 4 to 5 volumes that I remember reading, of the subplot of just this cult rising and then falling, and how his friends deal with it. Which, kid who's seeing things doesn't deal with it well. Kid who wants to protect that kid does amazingly well. Like, he has to go through so much, but does amazingly. And then we come back to Punpun, and he's just, you know, a kid trying to learn and stuff. He's got, I'm gonna guess it looked like a pompadour, and I'm like, kid, why? It's not cool. It's not cool, buddy. Also, in the beginning of this, all the friends were trying to watch a dark video that ended up turning into a cult video, and it yeah, don't know where the obsession of that came through, but Punpun slowly gets into the mature intimacy part, which he never has done it with anybody or anything until an unfortunate event. So, finally, the uncle brings the girl, who was very pushy, he spilled his soul story, she still wanted to be with him, over and starts living with him. I mean, cool, you know, you're helping with mom, and mom's being creepy, because she's like, bet you get all the dudes. I bet you get all of it. I bet people want you. Like, I used to be like that. I was everybody's want. I bet everyone wants you. Like, it's creepy. It's really creepy. It's, like, too much at times, so I'm like, you might want to reel it back. Please, come back. Come back. Good. Great. Awesome. Oh. But so she kind of tries to take care of Punpun and all this stuff. And all of a sudden the uncle kind of disappears, and it's a really weird thing, and she either invites Punpun into the cafe or into their home because they end up moving out. And she crosses the line and is intimate in the worst way possible. I have to say it because it feels the weirdest to try and dance around it. She rapes him. And he can't handle intimacy at all after that. And I cannot blame anybody who cannot be intimate with anybody after being raped. especially by someone you trust. So he just doesn't want to be in the house, doesn't want to be around, ends up moving into this, like, I'm gonna call it a 1 LDK. No, it's not even an LDK. It's K. Because there's not any laundry or dining room or bathroom there. It's just a little kitchen, a little sink, a thing to put his stuff away in his bedroom. It is just the barest of Japanese apartments. And that's where he lives. He gets a job. People kind of admire him in a sense. Not always, but they kind of do. And he wants to die. He's done with life. He's done with it all. He starts seeing pictures of Aiko as a model and her doing stuff. And ends up falling in love-ish with somebody else. She was one of the girls back in elementary school, and she actually had plastic surgery to look the way she does with glasses. And of course she was intimate with somebody else, and then goes to Punpun, gets intimate and attached. Well, Punpun kind of stutters and doesn't know if to go forward or back, so he turns into a triangle. And thinks he's on the up and up until kind of they get in a tiff or a fight, or I don't really know what it is. It was really weird. And she ends up getting pregnant with her ex's baby and looks at Punpun and asks, should I get rid of it to be with you? That's not an answer or a question that anybody can ask you. You have to decide that. And if the person that you were with, or if it was a one night stand, yeah, they don't have an opinion on this. But you shouldn't ask somebody that you want to be with or whatever, like, should I get rid of it for you? Because in the end, he said yes. And helps her through that and all that good stuff. And then Aiko pops up. And the whole threats of, I'll kill you if you're not with me, or if you're not honest with me, or if you anything like this, comes to a headway, and he ends up going with Aiko. They go over, he sees her one time, she comes over to his house, she's battered and bruised. He goes over, takes down, or at least watches the mom, who says her legs aren't working, and drags herself around the floor and gets these weird things. So while her daughter's working, she's doing nothing. And is very much abusive, manipulative, evil. Aiko has learned these traits and is slightly doing them to Punpun. I don't like it. I don't like it. Well, when Aiko says she's going to leave and never come back, the mom miraculously can be on her feet and tries to attack them. And she gets hit, Punpun gets hit, but Punpun ends up stabbing her a couple times. And then he walks out to get a box that was delivered. And secretly, because she doesn't tell Punpun, but Aiko kills her mom and leaves. Aiko is bleeding, has a very bad bruise mark in her eye, which pops one of her blood vessels, and they are now running away to a small remote village in Japan. Punpun is trying to heal, it's not working out. She's trying to heal, and she's profusely puking and is sick, can't eat anything, is just in bad condition. They do intimate things, which is horrifying. And what seems like in the end is that she dies. Because she inevitably kills herself because she doesn't want to get captured for killing her mom. That's what I believe, because all of a sudden her body does disappear, and I'm like, did she actually die? Did she not? Is he carrying her for no good reason? Is he carrying around a corpse? Because that's what it seems like! Is that he carries around her corpse, trying to hide her from things, doing all this stuff. His dad in the background got released, talked to Punpun about what happened with his mom. His mom actually pulled a knife on the dad. Dad didn't want to die, stopped her, but she got hurt. She tried to do it again with one of her later lovers, is an idiot, ends up getting cancer and dies after Punpun gets raped. And that's why it's even 10 times worse, and that's immediately why he, moved out. Because now he has nobody but his uncle and his rapist in the same house. But by the end of this, as he's carrying a dead Aiko through this village and all this stuff, all of a sudden her body disappears because he makes a phone call, and then he goes back to Tokyo. And that's when we get this blip of one of the kids just, hey, I'm Glasses Kid, I'm now a teacher. Woo! Now I'm seeing the same thing that happened with me and my friends with those. The other two, I believe, end up making it out, or at least the dude who was saving Cult Leader Boy made it out. I don't know about Cult Leader Boy. It felt like he didn't make it. I don't know for sure. Punpun had his eye stabbed kind of by Aiko once. He ends up going to Tokyo and stabs his eye again, which makes him have one less eye. But the girl who gave up her child to be with him finds him and ends up having a life with him and a kid with Punpun. Well, all of a sudden, teacher and Punpun are right there. They talk a little bit about life. The woman that is now with him, not married, the little girl comes up running to dad. Punpun, he's like, oh, when did you get married? When did you have a kid? He steps around that comment a lot because they're not married. They're just together with a kid so that he has motivation to keep living. And they move on. He is moving on. The teacher's moving on to be married to a person who is just not cool. She don't give anything about this dude. And I'm like, dude. Don't be with that, but alright. Love is weird and live. And Punpun moves on with his daughter and girlfriend and kind of the family that he was making. And that's where it ended. And I feel like the whole ending of this story is moving on from the worst and bad stuff. Oh, by the way, Aiko did admit in the end, before she hung herself or whatever, that she killed her mom. So that wasn't on his head. But I feel like this is just a story of moving on and trying to do better and just not being able to do better, and you're just meh. And I'm gonna be fair or right or anything with you guys that it didn't have that impact of, oh my god, he got better, he has a life now, he has a daughter. No. I don't think he deserved to have a kid with somebody. I don't think anybody should have had one with him because he's not mentally okay. He's not. But you think so, and that's why you're with them. And you want him to have a reason to live, and I guess this is the reason to live. I don't know. This is just nah. I don't think he should have died. I think he should have lived and been okay. I don't think the uncle should have had a happy ending with rapist woman, who ends up, I believe they have a kid and are doing really cool and stuff together. Alright, cool, whatever. I don't think they should be happy. She ended up giving him a cell phone, being like, here, use it. And he's like, I don't want anything from you. And I can't blame him. This kid has been through the ringer. He turned into an adult after a while and is just through sheer determination and moving on and trying to do better is alive right now. And that's just kind of, it felt more personal to me because it felt like some aspects of this book rung out about my life and I was like, oh, snap, But this really wasn't amazing for me. This was alright. I don't recommend this. Please don't read it if you're not okay with anything that happened that I just told you about the rape, the murder, the abuse, just the manipulation, all of it. Don't read it. I don't recommend it. God, I read it. No, don't do it. Don't do it. If you want to, go for it, but like I said, recommended you didn't. I did it. I recommended you. No. So if you do end up liking this manga, tell me in a couple sentences why you did in the end, and what you thought the meaning of it is in a couple sentences so I can understand your perspective. If you didn't, definitely like the video. Helps me. Don't forget that I also have Twitter and Facebook links down below if you want to follow me there. It totally works. I do Twitch and all that stuff on the side sometimes. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that big red button, for more anime, manga, something new, something different, all the craziness in the future. I hope that you've been having a wonderful day. Wolfy-Chan out. Bye.